Namaskar, I Kinjal from BA Honours Political Science 3rd Sem. I'm going to explain about Plato's book, The Laws, in which my part is from chapter 5 to chapter 8. In Plato's book 5, The Laws, where the Athenian philosopher take us through two important topics, ethics and the structure of magnesia in an ideal city. Ethics in ethics they prioritizing the soul, and in ethics, they prioritize the soul and body. Focus on soul and body. The soul is considered more important than the body, and caring for it through virtue should be prioritized. However, taking care of the body is also necessary, but with moderation, extreme wealth, beauty, or health should be avoided in favor of balance. In this chapter, Plato begins by emphasizing that the soul is the master of the body. In other words, what drives our actions, values, and thoughts is more important than just our physical health or appearance. But here the catch. Most people do not follow this rule. Instead, they chase external goods like wealth, beauty, and pleasure at the cost of their inner virtue. Think of it like this. Imagine a student who spends all their time perfecting their social media presence, beautiful photos, expensive clothes, but ignores their education and relationships. Plato would argue they are prioritizing the body over the soul, and in the long run, this balance leads to less fulfilling life. But do not misunderstood. Plato doesn't say body does not matter. Taking care of the body is essential, however, balance is key. For example, extreme wealth may lead to greed or conflicts, while extreme poverty makes people vulnerable. The ideal is to achieve internal versus external goods. Internal goods are always beneficial, while external goods depend on circumstances. Internal versus external goods. Plato explains the difference between internal goods, virtue like wisdom and kindness, and external goods such as money or beauty. Here's an important point: internal goods are always good, no matter the situation. For external goods, on the other hand, are only good when balanced with internal goods. Let's take an example. Imagine someone wins the lottery but has not developed virtue like generosity or self discipline. They might squander the money or harmful pleasures, ruining their life. But a virtuous person who wins the same lottery could use the money wisely, helping themselves and others. Now we discuss third point. Virtue brings true pleasure. Virtuous living leads to emotional stability and long-term happiness, while wise leads to extreme and plain. Now here where it gets fascinating. Plato argues that virtuous life is not just morally superior, it also more pleasurable. You see, wise leads to emotional extremes, anger, envy, excessive desires. These cause inner turmoil. Virtue, on the other hand, leads to emotional stability, which brings long term happiness. For instance, think about someone who cheats to gain a promotion. They might feel temporary satisfaction but will also carry guilt, fear of being caught, and constant anxiety. In contrast, someone who earns the same promotion through hard work enjoys peace of mind and pride of their effort. Virtue is not boring, it's a part to real enjoy. Now, section 2, Foundation of Magnesia, an ideal state. Plato's discussed the structure of magnesia, including citizen selection, criteria for choosing who can be a citizen, land distribution, balanced allocation of land among citizens, population and religion, guidelines on managing population and worship practices. 4 property classes. Citizens are divided into classes based on wealth. State administration, a flexible legal system that considers facts and influence like climate. Mathematics, highlighted as essential for governance. With ethics as foundation, Plato moves to practical aspect of building Magnesia, the ideal city. First, he discussed the selection of citizens. Only those committed to cities more ideal can be included. Next, land distribution is carefully planned. Every citizen gets an equal share of land, preventing extremes of wealth or poverty. This ensures stability. Think of it as the ancient version of zoning. Laws that promote balanced development in cities today. Population is also controlled to maintain harmony. and religion plays a key role in uniting citizens under shared values. Mathematics and administration. Plato does not stop there. He emphasizes the importance of mathematics, not just for governance, but for understanding life itself. Why math teaches logic, precision, and fairness, qualities essential for good leaders. Finally, the city is divided into four property classes, and its administration is guided by flexible laws. For instance, laws are adapted to changing circumstances like climate or new discoveries. It like how modern government adjusts policies based on new data or emergencies. To sum up this book, the laws teaches that building a good life and a good city requires balance, prioritizing the soul, care for the body, and pursue internal goods like virtue. And when organizing society aim for fairness, equality, and flexibility, these ancient lessons remain as relevant today. Now, book number 6, where Plato examines two vital aspects of an ideal state: voting in offices and marriage and family structure. Voting in offices. Electoral process. A four-step process involving nominations, voting, lots, and scrutiny. Casting lots. Add fairness by randomly choosing candidates, balancing equality and merit. Key offices. Assembly. Open to citizens with military services. Council manages daily state affairs composed of 360 members, guardians of the laws, senior officials overseeing laws and governance. This system combines democracy and meritocracy. Marriage. Citizens are encouraged to marry opposites to promote diversity and the state's well being. Marriage laws. Man must marry by 35 or face penalties. This ensures population stability. Women's role. Women are included in public life, such as shared meals, reflecting Plato's progressive views. 3. Imagine a city where every citizen plays a role in shaping its leadership. Plato's Magnesia, the city he envisioned, has a fascinating way of electing officials. The process has 4 stages. Here, how it works. Citizens who served in the military nominate candidates by writing names on a public tablets. Let's say Alex and Helen are popular nominees. Their names appear frequently, so they move on to the next round, voting. Citizens then vote for their preferred candidates, but there's a twist. After voting, they draw lots, a process similar to a random lottery, to decide the final candidates. Why this randomness? In Plato's time, drawing lots was seen as democratic. It gave everyone a fair chance, balancing meritocracy with equality. Think of it like a talent competition. You showcase your skill, but the final winner is partially left to the chance, ensuring fairness. Equality types. Plato introduced 2 types of equality: arithmetic equality, geometric equality. Arithmetic equality, where everyone is treated the same, reflected in the lottery. Geometric equality, where people are treated based on their abilities as seen in the voting stage. Now let's talk about the office in Magnesia. There are 3 keys office: the assembly, the council, the guardian of the law. The assembly, open to all military served citizens, organizes election and public events. The council, made of 360 members, manages the state's daily affair. The guardians of law. 37 senior officials responsible for supervising laws, guiding citizens, and even revising outdated rules. Just for example, think of guardians as a modern Supreme Court, ensuring justice while adapting to societal changes. This balance of office, some chosen by voting, others by lot, creates a stable mix of democratic and meritocratic principles. Plato's city combines the best of both worlds. Now let's talk about Plato's view on marriage. For him, marriage is not just a personal choice, it's a matter of state importance. In Magnesia, citizens are encouraged to marry partners with opposite characteristics. Why? To create balance in their families and the state. Imagine a hot tempered man marrying a calm, level headed woman. Their differences balance each other out, making their household harmonious. Plato believed that this balance would ripple outward, contributing to a stable society. But what if someone does not marry? Plato introduced a law: all men must marry by the age of 35 or face fines and public dishonor. He believed this law would ensure population growth and social. In Plato's time, music was not just about song or melodies. It referred to all the arts taught by muses, including poetry, mathematics, and storytelling. Plato saw these subjects as essential for shaping a person's moral character. Why is music important? Plato believed that what people see and hear shapes who they become. For example, if children grow up watching stories where evil is rewarded or cowardly characters succeed, they are likely to mimic those behaviors. So, in Magnesia, poetry and theatre are carefully controlled to present only morally uplifting examples. Heroes in these stories must display courage, wisdom, and virtue. As we can also see in our movie culture, just like in Bollywood, there is a hero who has a very nice, extremely very nice, मतलब उसका progressive views on women. Interestingly, Plato is progressive for his time. He argued that women should participate in communal meals and public life, something rare in ancient Greece. He even emphasized that a city can't flourish unless all citizens, all its citizens, including women, receive a proper education. In summary of book 6, we can say that the laws shows Plato's intricate design for governance and family life. Through a blend of voting, lotteries, and careful thought out of laws, he aims to create a society that balances equality and merit. He emphasizes on harmony, both in governance and in marriage. Reflects his belief that stability begins with the individual, extend to the state. Plato's idea might feel ancient, but they offer timeless lessons on fairness, balance, and the role of every citizen in shaping a better society. Now we discuss about Plato's book 7 and 8. In laws, which focus primarily on education, Plato believed education was the foundation of a good society, and his ideas in these chapters outline how to shape citizens' character, intelligence, and physical abilities to create harmony in the state of Magnesia. Let's break it down into two main parts: musical education and gymnastic or physical education. Musical education. Moral lessons, poetry, music, and theatre must instill positive value. Comedy, allowed but restricted to slaves or foreigners to prevent moral corruption. Mathematics and astronomy. Basic education for all with advanced studies for some, giving citizen a philosophical foundation. Gymnastics. Military training, character building, limitations. Military training, physical education is designed to prepare citizens for defense. Character building, movement and moderate physical hardship, shape emotions and character. Luxury is discouraged and children are taught to endure hardship of resilience. Imitation, citizens imitate positive movements, example dancing, to develop grace and courage. But what about comedy? Interestingly, Plato makes an exception for comedy. It allowed but only performed by slaves or foreigners, not citizens. Why? Comedy can mock virtue, and Plato was concerned that too much exposure might weaken people's respect for good behavior. Limiting it to certain performers ensures the lessons don't harm the moral development of citizens. Now, mathematics and astronomy. Every citizen in Magnesia learns basic maths and some study astronomy. But why? Plato believed that maths help people understand abstract concepts which are essential for philosophical thinking. For instance, solving a geometrical problem forces you to think logically and abstractly, which improves your reasoning abilities. In modern terms, this is like how learning math today develops problem solving skills. To explain this with an example, imagine a farmer using geometry to measure and divide his land fairly among his children. By doing so, he is learning logic, fairness, and practical problem solving, all key values for a virtuous citizen. Gymnastics, building the body and spirit. Now let's move to gymnastics, which focuses on physical education. For Plato, physical fitness was not just about being strong, it was about developing good character and preparing for military services. Military training through supports. In Magnesia, physical activities like running, wrestling, and archery were adapted to emphasize military skills. Sports that focused on impractical or flashy techniques were banned. For example, instead of complicated wrestling moves, citizens were trained in armed combat simulation. This prepared them to defend the city in needed. Building character through physical activity. Plato also believed physical movement directly influences emotions. Think about babies. When they cry, rocking them calms them down. Similarly, Plato argued that constant moves for infant and young children helps them release anxiety and fears, shaping their emotional stability. For older children, physical challenges teach resilience. Plato was against excessive luxury because it makes people spoiled and weak. Instead, children were encouraged to face hardship. But in moderation, for example, imagine a child learning to run long distance. It's hard at first, but over time they develop endurance and confidence, traits that help them face life's challenges. Imitation and moral character. Plato had another fascinating idea. Humans take on trait of what they imitate. If someone performs graceful and courageous movements, like a dancer imitating a hero, they became more graceful, courageous themselves. On the flip side, if they practice clumsy or shameful movements, their character suffers. Let's make this relatable. Think of an actor preparing for a heroic role in the movie. As they practice bold, confident gestures, they might find themselves becoming more confident in real life. Plato saw physical education as not just about health, but as a way to instill virtues like discipline, courage, and balance. The role of play in education. Plato had strong opinions about play too. He believed it was a powerful tool for shaping children's character. He argued that if you control how children play using structured games and consistent rules, you create stability in their life. Change, he warned, is dangerous unless it's absolutely necessary. For instance, imagine a group of children playing a game like a chess. If the rules change constantly, the players get confused and frustrated, and they might leave the game. But if the rules stay consistent, they develop patience, strategy, and discipline, qualities they all carry into adulthood. Plato wanted similar consistency in all areas of education to create a harmonious society. Education for both men's and women's. An important point is that Plato's system applied to both men and women. At the time, this was a progressive idea. Women were included in physical training, public meals, basic education, because Plato argued that a city could not flourish unless all its citizens, regardless of gender, were well educated. Let's sum up this book by that laws emphasizes how education shapes individual and by extension the entire state. Musical education through arts, poetry and math develops the mind and soul, teaching citizens to appreciate beauty, God, goodness and truth. Physical education builds the body and instills virtue like courage and discipline. Together, these forms of education create a balanced and virtuous and contribute to the greater good. Plato's idea may seem restrict or idealistic, but they remind us of the enduring importance of education in building both character and community. Thank you so much for this part.